St. James, but this is St. James the Lesser, who grew up and confusing because the Jews are very, very concerned with who you're related to, but they are deeply unconcerned with how you're related to them. So he was related to Jesus, but we're not exactly sure how. Jude does not describe himself as a brother or adelphos of Jesus. So he may have been older and already moved out of the house before Jesus came along. He may have, lived in the house with Jesus. Jude didn't. So he's a cousin of humble, but again, we just don't know. Ourselves in ministry, and it is somewhat frustrating that we're left with Jude's letter knowing that he's connected to Jesus but not knowing how. Remember that in the early church, almost everybody who converted to Christianity became a minister at some level. The idea was we are all evangelical. If I have been touched by Jesus, I need to bring as many people into the fold as I can. Also remember, because the world is going to end soon, right? There was nobody who said this was just going to go on and on and on for 1,000 years. So everybody was of the opinion that there was no time to waste, and so everybody is meant to share their faith all the time. And so that brings us to the very, very short letter of St. Jude, 2570 AD, not long after the specifically paganism, false teachers. Be careful of false teachers. And that really is it. We're now 2 minutes into this talk, and that's pretty much the whole story. The letter of Jude is mentioning a few things about, rather than just on the way that the early church was put together. This is one of the rare figures that we don't really see a lot of outside of his letter, although we do see Jude appearing here and there. This gives us just a little bit broader picture of what was going on in the early church. And so that's why don't really care out well because St. John was approving. This is just context. It helps us to understand how things went in that first Christian century. And so that's the whole story. St. Jude, closely related to Jesus, but doesn't make himself out to be a bigger deal than he might be, was definitely a minister at some level, does not seem to have been a bishop, and ultimately was saying, look, hold fast to the teaching of the apostles and reject those people that push back against it. And that's the whole story. Next week is the book of Revelation, which is not simple, and will take up all of our time to get through. And so I hope that you will join us in the CU life. But you